I'm here with...
Paul Tabling.
And AJ Ferguson.
And I'm Luke Parrish. All right, let's get into what we've been watching this week.
Yes.
You guys like that intro?
That was good.
Loved it.
Caught us all off guard.
Loved it.
I'm sure.
Everybody at home's like, what happened?
What's going on? Why is their audio so loud?
Draw them in, baby. It's like the whisper fight in...
the other guys?
The other guys.
Yeah.
Where they're at the funeral and they're like, I will kill you in the parking lot.
And then the captain comes over and he's like,
hey. Michael Keaton.
Yes.
So good. For me, I watched Sunderland Till I Die.
Yeah, how'd you like that?
Super interesting. I've never, I don't know anything about, the lower levels of soccer, and so I thought that was super interesting. Basically, cool. Sunderland's, relegated. They got relegated from the Premier League 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then this season, I don't want to spoil it, but... Spoiler alert, I guess, if you ever want to watch it. But anyway, they get relegated again to the third division, which is real bad.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to automatically promote to the Premier League in 1 year, and they ended up going the complete opposite direction.
Dang.
So it's kind of like Hard Knocks or Last Chance U, where it's you just follow around like a dumpster fire of a team for a year,
yeah.
And people get fired. And, coaches get fired.
Oh, that's
players
crazy.
leave.
How many coaches they went through?
Insane.
And it's like a documentary style?
It's a documentary style.
Huh.
It's super, super interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's pretty short. It's 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah. They're coming out with a season 2. So
it's a show?
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting to me about that show in particular is the fans are the kind of the main character of the show.
I love hearing from the fans.
And the fans are what carry the show because the players all leave and the coaches leave, and so the fans are the ones. That's why it's called Sunderland Till I Die. They don't care if their team's good or bad. They're going to go to the games and cheer for their team.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So I watched that whole show, and then Callie and I restarted. We finished the Goldbergs and we restarted Community.
Nice.
And I love that show, dude. I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times through. And it's even funnier the next times.
Mm-hmm.
Great show. We're on season 2 or something. But,
Dang.
love that show. If you're looking for a good sitcom to watch, you need something to watch. It's on Hulu. It's great
5
show.
seasons, right?
5 or 6 seasons. Season 4 is when they start getting rid of some of the main characters, and then season 5 and 6 is when they got re-picked up by Yahoo or whatever, and they're kind of downers, but they're not bad. But seasons 1 through 4 are gold, so if you're looking for something to watch.
I believe it.
Yeah, so NBC dropped them because they lost
remember hearing that.
Donald Glover and Chevy Chase, and then Yahoo picked them up and
weird.
streamed it.
Interesting.
It was a weird acquisition.
Bizarre. And they were mini seasons. It was 10 to 15 episodes. It was bizarre. But the show was still good, so...
Interesting.
And then apparently Dan Harmon wants to write a movie because throughout the show, one of the running jokes is 6 seasons in a movie. 6 seasons in a movie. And so they haven't made a movie yet, but they're all talking about getting back together.
I think
with
that's what the Russo brothers, their secret project
They're
was.
talking about the Russo brothers getting back with Dan Harmon and writing a movie, which I would totally go watch.
Oh, for sure.
Great show if you're looking for something to watch. But that's what I've been watching. I don't think I've watched any movies. I've been watching
I watched 2.
A lot of TV.
I have watched... These are a couple different ones. So the first one I watched was called Pretty Sweet. It's a skateboard movie on Amazon, and basically all it is a bunch of just montages of skateboarders doing cool stuff. They call it a movie, but I mean...
It's like a highlight video?
Pretty much. I mean, it was still cool. It was an enjoyable watch. It was an hour and a half of just watching that stuff. So, I mean... Obviously, if you hate skateboarding, then don't watch it. But,
were they real people or were they actors?
Yeah, they're real people. Jack Black was in it for a little bit. Will Arnett was in it.
Nice.
It was just weird. All of a sudden, they're riding in this van going somewhere, and just Will Arnett sitting in the back, just yelling at him. It was hilarious.
Wow.
That's weird. Well,
super weird.
It's all right.
Who are some of the skateboarders that are in it?
Eric Costin, Sean Malto. There's another big one that I knew. But yeah, just...
What's it called again? I'm sorry.
Pretty Sweet.
Pretty Sweet.
Yeah.
On Netflix?
Crazy.
On Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Another one I watched is, get this title, The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
Yes.
Oh, I heard
saw
about
that.
this.
Or I didn't watch it, but I saw that trailer or something on my feed. Yeah.
So, this movie, I have some feelings about this movie. I have some thoughts about this movie. So the main character is Sam Elliott.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so,
I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie is basically, Sam Elliott's old. He's an old guy now, but you keep having these flashbacks to where it went back to where he's the guy that had to assassinate Hitler. And so you get this kind of like cool spy sequence with these flashbacks and stuff, and then you also flashback to his like romantic the girl he was like basically in love with. Flashbacks to that. And so I think the first half of this movie is pretty decent. It's just, old man that just keeps having these flashbacks and stuff and trying to like let go of the past and stuff like that. He goes throughout the town. Everyone knows him. There's a cool sequence at the beginning where he's walking to his car from a bar and these guys try and mug him. He's ex like military spy, and so they like they're like trying to steal his car. They take his wallet, take the picture of his wallet of the lady that he loved, and then they like burn it, and then like the guy gets in his car and Sam Elliott's like, I can't let you take my car, and then he just beats all three of them up right there on the spot.
Dang.
So I mean the beginning of this movie isn't bad. It's when they start to introduce the Bigfoot stuff where it doesn't get, it's weird, but it just gets not awesome. Just because you think that from the title, The Man Who Killed Hitler, and then the Bigfoot, you think you'd spend a good portion of this movie like, oh, he's like trying to find Bigfoot, kill Bigfoot, because, but it's really it's only like 15 minutes long that you see him trying to kill Bigfoot, and then which is cool because I would have preferred this movie to have been like an hour and a half of him just like in the woods by himself tracking Bigfoot, getting chances at him, and then eventually like the big fight at the end or whatever where he gets him. Because the thing with Bigfoot is this movie is Bigfoot's carrying a disease, and there's only like 3 people in the world that are immune, and he's one of them. The other one's like a baby, and the other guy is like just way too old or something, or he died. And so they have to send Sam Elliott into the woods to try and find Bigfoot and fight him, or kill him.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he's like carrying like the plague or something like that. So if they didn't like do something soon, they would have to like nuke the area or whatever. So that's where things I wish that you either got like a full movie of like that, or a full movie of like just like the conflictions of an old guy trying to let go of the past, trying to do this, trying to do that. And
so the whole movie felt like a setup kind of thing.
It really just it didn't feel like a setup. It was like him just going through his life, having these flashbacks, and all of a sudden these just military guys, they have a little bit of setup. They show this car kind of follow him every once in a while. But like then all of a sudden they're just like,
here's Bigfoot.
They're like, yeah, Bigfoot's gonna kill everybody. You gotta go kill him. And I was like,
what a weird movie.
It was just it has a 74 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sounds bizarre.
Like,
interesting.
I'm not recommending you watch it only unless you're like super intrigued. Like I'm not disappointed I spent my time with it. I rated like on my Letterboxd app where I go rank movies, review them and stuff. I gave it like 2.5, 3 stars out of 5, just because I was like, man, this is like this could have been two good movies, but they put them together and made it one like okay movie, like just odd,
just a random combination.
I had someone recommend it to me, and I watched it. I'm like I said, I'm not disappointed. I watched it because like now I can say I watched the movie The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
Well, I love Sam Elliott, so
yeah, and he was great in it. Yeah, I mean that's all I've watched this week, and of course still watching Scrubs with Danielle. We're just flying through that stuff. She loves it, and of course I love it. So I mean, big fan of that. But Paul, what you got?
So I actually, other than what we're discussing tonight, haven't watched a movie this week.
Oh my gosh!
I know, right? I think this is the first one, but whatever. But we finally finished Friends. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of a chicky type show, but I love the dudes in the show. Chandler is my favorite character ever.
He's awesome.
But also we started watching Frasier for probably the 5th or 6th time now.
Sweet.
Love Frasier.
We're kind of on an old TV show kick. Even though I remember when these TV shows were actually still on the air.
Yeah.
And then probably the only new thing that I've watched is this week was the new Chappelle stand-up.
I've been meaning to watch it. Everyone at work is
pretty funny.
Everyone at work's talking about it.
If you're not a Chappelle fan, then don't waste your time. But
yeah,
if you're a fan of his style,
I definitely am. They were telling me some of the jokes, and I just I could stop laughing while they were telling me, and that's just telling me the jokes secondhand.
Oh
so.
Yeah. So, but it was good. So yeah, that's really all I've watched.
Not bad. All right.
Sweet.
All right. So Luke's the only one that watched the actual movie.
Right? Yeah.
That's okay. I'll give you guys a pass.
Thanks.
So you guys want to go into our top 5s this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
This week we decided to do. We picked this last night, I think.
Yep.
it goes along with our movie, but we did the top 5 movies based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
So,
yep.
Is this loosely using based on a true story or based on true events?
I went close.
I kind of went both.
I did both.
I kind of did both. I went closer to true, like more true than not.
Yeah.
Because this movie's pretty accurate. Like, I didn't do, like, Tombstone. Like, I had Tombstone on my list, but I took it off because it's, like...
based on true characters.
But it's kind of, like, real loose, you know?
Yeah.
So I tried to pick more movies that were, like, actual, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
I had a mix of both.
I'll let you be the judge of how well I stuck to the based on true story.
It's all right. Mine were true events, so as long as the word true was in it, I'm like, all right, fine.
Something historical a little bit, yeah.
All right.
Do you guys want to read all of our honorable mentions?
Yeah, let's do it. For me, my honorable mentions were The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, Apollo 13, Tom Hanks, and Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, nice. I have Eddie the Eagle, The Social Network, Remember the Titans, and The Imitation Game.
Nice. I love The Imitation Game.
I feel like some things we're going to have similar and some things we're not. So for me, my honorable mentions were Apollo 13, Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash movie, with also Joaquin Phoenix, who we were talking about earlier for the Joker movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then Spotlight. Really, I love Boston, but so anything it's going to be an easy watch for me. But it was a great story. And then Remember the Titans as well.
Nice,
I wanted to put several sports movies on this list, but I didn't. I refrained from.
I put 2 sports movies on mine.
Really, I thought about putting Remember the Titans on there because it's just such a good movie.
I have 1.5, maybe.
Yeah. Interesting that we both had Imitation Game.
Yeah.
And we both had Apollo 13. That's cool.
And we both had Remember the Titans.
And all both Remember the Titans, yeah.
I did think about putting Imitation Game on there.
Great movie.
Do like that movie a lot.
Great movie. I need to watch it again.
It just kind of got edged out because I didn't want to have 5 honorable mentions.
Yeah. This list was difficult for me just because I think true story movies are probably my least favorite genre. And so I think this one was kind of hard because there's a lot of movies I don't hate true story movies. It's just the ones
you're not like going to watch all the time.
Yeah, I connect with them probably the least. Mostly because for me, I think you can sit down, you can think like how each movie's going to end. You know, the best thing going to happen is going to happen.
Right.
Except for maybe in Braveheart where he dies at the end. But I mean, good things came from that though.
Yeah.
I narrowed my honorable mentions down to 3, but if I had a 4th one, I would choose Dunkirk. By Chris Nolan.
I haven't seen that one.
Great movie.
I need to get on that.
It's kind of a weird. It almost feels like a fictional take on true events, like the way he like shot it and wrote it and everything. But it's all based on true story, so pretty cool. Number 5, I guess I'll go first, but number 5 for me is Hacksaw Ridge.
Nice.
Great movie. Andrew Garfield's awesome. Super cool movie. If you haven't seen it, one of the best war movies ever as far as the way that it's shot and some of the explosions and just the different
Mel Gibson
stuff
directed.
Mel Gibson directed it, so great movie if you want to go watch it.
What's his name from Dodgeball's great in it too.
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
I forgot.
Oh yeah, he's like the commander
he's
or
the
something.
sergeant or whatever.
Yeah, he's good in it.
He makes fun of him the whole time. He's kind of a funny character.
Yeah.
But
I love about that movie that it was something, we never see a war movie where the guy doesn't want to fight.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool take.
Yeah, it's kind of a different story.
And I liked how at the end they had the actual guy on there. So
it's pretty cool. I also thought about putting Unbroken on here. Have you guys seen that movie?
I have.
Seen that
I
one.
barely remember it, though.
I thought about putting that one on here, but I didn't. But that's a great movie too.
That's one where he's in the like Chinese camps or whatever.
Well, so he's on the bombers going to Japan.
Yeah.
And gets shot down. So he has to he lives on the sea for like 40-something days in a raft.
Yeah.
And then gets captured, taken to Japan for like an internment camp. And he's there for the rest of the war, basically. Then he gets kind of shipped around Japan to different.
He has to hold up like the piece of wood above his head and stuff
the
like
classic
that.
scene from the trailer.
I think it's the poster too.
Yeah, it's the poster.
I think
it's a great movie too. But for me, number 5 is Hacksaw Ridge.
I've seen that. I just don't remember it at all.
Yeah,
I forgot I'd seen it, to be honest.
They're making another one, I thought.
Didn't Clint Eastwood do that movie? Was he the director?
It was Angelina Jolie.
Oh.
I thought.
Huh. I don't remember.
I have something
haven't seen
against
it.
Clint Eastwood movies, so
Whoa.
like not the ones that he's acted in, but the ones that he's directed.
Basically,
whoa.
what my list turned into is like a list of war movies.
Okay,
I could have easily done that also.
Essentially, which we did war movies not that long ago.
Did we do war movies?
Maybe we didn't.
I don't think we did.
But yeah, basically my list is that's what.
Okay.
Nice.
My number 5 is American Made.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with
Tom Cruise. He's starts out as like an airplane pilot, and then something happens to where he's like, man, I can make a lot of money just shipping this cocaine from USA to, was it Cuba? Cuba, but
from Colombia.
Colombia, yeah. And so it's just about him just doing that and then just getting more and more money, and eventually, like, was it the DEA finally catches up to him and stuff like that.
It's pretty recent too, isn't it?
Yeah,
last 5 years.
The movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was just, I thought it was just an enjoyable watch. And so I'm like, man, that's something different, a different true story movie than I've seen. Usually they're war movies, they're sports movies. They're, basically between those two. And so I think seeing something where the guy is, he's not doing great things.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because I remember when that movie was coming out, right around that time I was watching Narcos.
Yeah.
And his character's in the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the Tom Cruise movie. And I just never watched it, but I need to check that out.
I think that's the only one. I think I like it so much because it does have a bad ending. Like, have you haven't seen it? Right, so have you seen it? Okay, I thought you had.
No, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I can say I'm pretty sure I remember how it ends from Narcos, so I would assume the movie ends
Will you
similarly.
say it? Just so I don't spoil it. How's it end?
Will I say it? So
how's it end in Narcos? What happens to him?
Doesn't he die?
Yep. All right. So at the end he dies.
Isn't that how all historical movies end, though?
No.
Well, if they're from a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like he gets like assassinated kind of thing.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
And he's
FBI
like on the
guy.
run from like the cartel the whole like end of the movie, and
Yeah.
Dang.
I think that's why I have it on my list. It's just not your like stereotypical true story movie.
Yeah.
Dang.
Cool.
Yeah, number 4
5 for Paul.
or 5. Yeah,
Whoa.
sorry.
Whoa.
Hey, sorry.
Whoa, man.
Oh.
So for me, number 5 is actually Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Nice, good one.
Love that movie.
I watched it once and I got bored. And then I watched it again. It's really
a
good.
super long movie, so I completely get it. But I loved a lot of the choices, not just as far as story, but as far as like, all black and white, except for like red thing. Like I love that and other things, but just the whole story of it. And then at the very end, I mean, how Liam Neeson's character just like breaks down. He's like, I couldn't get them all, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I was like losing it at the end of it. But great movie.
Liam Neeson, that was
It's
crazy.
Spielberg, right?
Yep, Spielberg.
When I think of that movie, I always think of the Seinfeld episode. Whenever they go to the movie, and Jerry makes out with his girlfriend during Schindler's
the
List,
movie, yeah.
and Newman's in the
he's
back,
Jewish.
and Newman's like.
Yeah.
And Jerry's Jewish, and so he goes to his family reunion, and Newman's like, "Guess what I saw Jerry doing?" And they're all like, "Jerry." It's pretty good stuff.
And doesn't he go like a second time and the same thing
He
happens?
goes for the second time. I'm gonna watch it this time, and then this like pretty girl comes in, and she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
Number 4 for me is another war movie. We Were Soldiers. Mel Gibson again. Love this guy. It's based on.
He makes good based on true story movies.
he really, really does. We Were Soldiers is set in Vietnam, and to me, it's the best Vietnam war movie out there. It is.
It's real good.
It's awesome. The action is incredible. The drama is ridiculous. The emotion of that movie is awesome, just because they literally, like, Mel Gibson's character is like the leader of like this group of guys, and he's like, I'm the first one on the battlefield and the last one off the battlefield or whatever. And like he like loses, like, I forget the numbers, but like 60 or 75% of his guys, and it's just like terrible. And all these bad things happen throughout the movie, like while they're on the ground. But literally like the first 20 minutes is like them getting there, and the last like 10 is them leaving, and the middle like hour and a half is like just straight up warfare in Vietnam, and it's awesome. So great movie if you haven't seen it. It's a little older, early 2000s, I think.
And isn't it, if I remember right, isn't it from the perspective of like some journalist?
So the
who's,
guy
like,
actually
following
who
him
wrote
around?
the book, the book's called We Were Soldiers. He was a reporter from, I forget which newspaper, like the Washington Post or something like that. And he actually flies out with them to do like an op-ed piece, or to do like some kind of like really cool piece, like first person piece. and he ends up like getting stuck in the battle.
Yeah.
And at one point, Sam Elliott's character like throws him a rifle. And is like, "Hey, brother, you better pick up this gun, or you're gonna get killed or whatever." And Sam Elliott's character's awesome, but so he ends up like actually fighting in the battle. This reporter does, like, and he's like really impacted by it. And obviously, he's the one who goes home and tells the story.
Yeah. It's a good one.
But he's a great writer. So like throughout the movie, he has these like monologues, these like voiceovers and things, and they're really well written because he's a good writer. So great movie. Super sad. So beware.
It's pretty rough.
Bring your own tissues.
All right, Luke.
My turn. My number 4 is Lords of Dogtown.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
So
it's another skateboarding movie.
This one is a legit skateboarding movie.
Yeah,
though. Like,
it totally is.
That's awesome.
Story and everything. So it's about it's like 1970s California, and it's about these 3 like best friend skaters that pretty much revolutionized the sport. So before that, it's a bunch of just like they have competitions and stuff, with a bunch of dweebs out there doing like basically nothing, and these guys kind of show like. These guys are like surfers and stuff, and they like get into skateboarding, and they use their surfing backgrounds to kind of do stuff with skateboarding. They revolutionize the sport, and through that, all three of them get, or not all 3 of them, like 2 of them maybe, 2 of them get sponsored, and then one turns down like a sponsorship, and then they kind of grow apart because of that through like the fame and like just being competitive and whatnot. And by the end of them, there's this 4th guy that's in their friend group that comes down with cancer, and it all brings them back together, and they. It's just it's a good movie with a pretty decent story. The characters, it's decently short too. What I like about it is it covers like a topic that isn't covered very often, because skateboarding's such a sport that people don't really pay attention to and stuff.
It's a niche thing.
Yeah, it's a niche thing. It's something that doesn't get covered that often. It's nice having a good movie about it that even people that don't do it enjoy watching it. And so it has the guy that played Sharon Tate's like
Emil Hirsch. I was just looking it up because Heath Ledger's in it too.
Yeah, Heath Ledger's in it. He plays the board shop owner. Yeah, he's cool in it. But yeah, Emil Hirsch is in it. He's one of the little kids. I think there may be like 14 or 15 in the movie. And he's great. And I think him and Heath Ledger are the only 2 like big names in it.
That's what I was looking at because I couldn't remember.
What's his name from The Ringer is in it too.
I know what you're talking about. Dang it. Stink. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
also
remember.
in Jackass.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Which I just watched the 3rd one a couple weeks ago.
Those movies are amazing.
Great movie.
But no, it's a good skateboarding movie. Johnny Knoxville, yeah.
So give me a second.
If you're not into skateboarding, I suggest you watch it, just because, like, honestly, I've said this before about movies, but it's kind of one of those staple movies, I want to say, where like eventually someone's seen it at some point. I think it came out in 2005 maybe.
Yep, 2005.
Nice. But yeah,
good job.
That's my number 4.
Cool.
Sweet.
My number 4 is The Revenant.
Interesting,
dude.
Nice.
I love this movie. I mean, this is one of the ones that I think is more loosely based on true events, or just on the one dude, or
dramatized or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, this is one of the ones that I'm kind of. It's, it could arguably not be in this list, but I love this movie. Second favorite Leo movie.
What's your first?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For sure. But
this is the movie that got him his first Oscar, right?
Yeah, it was. Everyone was so pumped.
His performance in this movie was awesome. I think it outshined the movie, like itself. Like I think he was bigger than the movie, which isn't necessarily a great thing, but I do like that movie. I think what's his name is underrated.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. He's a really underrated actor. He's really
He is an underrated actor.
He's really
I
good.
hated his character because of the choice they made of him not understanding him very well. If you could understand what he was saying more, I think I wouldn't have been so upset. But and then the captain is General Hux from the new Star Wars movies.
I can't.
He was in something else. I
don't like Laura Dern at all.
No.
Or like, or who did you
Domhnall
say?
Gleeson.
Oh, Domhnall
Hux.
Gleeson. I thought you said Laura Dern's character. I was like,
oh no.
I can't stand her.
General Hux. Yeah.
We just saw him in something else. I thought.
Did we?
We were talking about that. I forget. It might have been somebody
Maybe.
else.
Maybe he was in something else.
Were you like the Harry Potter movies? You've been watching?
Oh
those?
yeah, he was in
Is
Harry
that why?
the.
It was Harry Potter.
Good
It
job.
was Harry Potter. Yeah.
That's right, guys.
I was like, that guy looks so familiar.
Yeah, he's one of the older
Yeah.
Weasley brothers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You're
Bill?
absolutely
I
right.
think-
Yeah. He literally walked in the door and I was like, or the stormtroopers.
it's a
Where
Weasley.
are the stormtroopers? So he's a great
That's
actor.
awesome. Okay.
So, all right, number 3,
Number
AJ.
3 for me is Saving Private Ryan. Arguably the best war movie ever. It's probably not even that arguable.
Is it the best Vin Diesel movie ever?
Yes, 100%. What's the babysitter one called?
The
Pacifier.
Pacifier.
That one's my
Okay.
Which is a
that's
great
my
movie.
favorite Vin Diesel movie.
Jan and
ever.
I actually watched that not too long
I
ago.
love
Oh,
it.
there was my movie for the week.
Was
that
Pacifier?
movie?
The
Really?
Pacifier. Nice.
Forgot about that.
That's my favorite Vin Diesel movie. But yeah, I love Saving Private Ryan. Great movie. One of Spielberg's best moments ever.
Yeah,
One of
totally.
Tom Hanks' best movies ever.
One of the most realistic war
One of the
movies
best.
too.
I mean, this was
Yeah.
so much before its time. Like all this super cool stuff we have in our movies nowadays. Like he was so cutting edge when he was doing
Yeah.
it.
Man.
Great movie. Great
Yeah.
movie. I'm not going to be surprised at all if you guys have that movie on your list. So.
I don't actually.
I actually don't either, but
Whoa.
it definitely is
Wow.
really good.
Interesting.
My thing that I'll always remember about this movie, and it actually has nothing to do with the actual movie, but I had a teacher when I was in like middle school who said that she said, and it wasn't even a history teacher. She was like an English teacher or something or other that said, if you want to see the best representation of D-Day ever in film,
Watch
this
this
is
movie.
it. Watch the
So-
first 15 minutes of the movie and just get over that they say
Dude, so good.
this, say cuss words and stuff. Just get over it because it's war.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, it's the best representation of
we
that.
need to do a top 5 in the future of like best opens to a movie.
Mm.
This movie would be on my list. Like
Yeah,
literally,
totally.
the movie starts. They're like on the ship, like going toward the beach.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of quiet, and then like bullets start like whizzing, and the
Yeah.
airplanes start going by, and then literally the door opens, and you're like,
Kind of gives yourself anxiety. You're like, oh my gosh.
they're running for it,
And
you're
then
like,
80 guys just die.
dude, oh, it's
Yeah.
that's
Crazy to
such,
think about.
Such
Yeah.
a good open to a movie, but
Yeah.
love that movie. Great movie. Super great movie. Number 3.
Number 3 for me is Into the Wild. Have either of you guys seen that?
I saw that. I was researching a bunch of different lists, and that was on
Reese
almost
Witherspoon?
everyone's list.
No, that's The Wild.
The
I think,
Wild.
or
Okay, what's this movie?
This one also has Emil Hirsch in it. He's the main
Oh.
character, and so he plays a guy named Christopher McCandless. I'm pretty sure. Christopher McCandless, and he graduates from college, and instead of going, following a career path and stuff like that, what he does is basically he just gives all the money he has to charity, cuts his credit cards, like all his ties to society, and then just sets out on on this journey to Alaska. And so you're following him along this journey as he develops, finds freedom in what he's doing, just living life. He gets to this one point where he has to ride the river up towards Alaska, and he just goes, buys his kayak, rides this river. He comes across these European people. I want to say they're Polish, maybe, just chilling out on the banks. So he hangs out with them. He stops and he lives with this old guy for a month or a few weeks or a month or something like that. They develop a bond and stuff, and it's his character development through this freedom that he has through what he's doing, and then it's also the impact that he has on these other people. He gives this old guy that's his wife is gone and everything like that, and so he helps him to become more adventurous in what he does. And so it's the character growth he's going to and the impact he has on the other characters. But of course it's funny, this is another movie that has a terrible ending for the character.
This is the one where he gets eaten by bears.
Luke just likes dark.
No, so he makes it to Alaska and he finds this abandoned bus, and he lives in this bus for a long time, and eventually he's finding stuff to eat, and he comes across these berries, which he has this berry book, which it says, I can't remember which one it is, but it's vertical berries are safe and then horizontal ones are poisonous, and the way you die through these berries is you become sick, you eventually become paralyzed, and you just die. Dang. And so he ate those berries. So
Brutal.
he died alone in Alaska on that bus, just like that. And that's a true story that actually happened. You can go see the bus; it's still there in Alaska.
Whoa!
Yeah,
brutal.
It's crazy. It's eerie because there's a picture they found there of him sitting in this lawn chair in front of the bus, and that's the last time anybody ever saw him.
weird.
Yeah.
You do like those kinds of movies.
I was gonna say that's seeing a trend here, Luke.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
Luke's kind of movie.
Don't worry,
Okay.
the last two are happy.
Okay.
Sorta.
Can't wait.
All right, for me, number 3
And now.
is Lincoln.
Yes.
Also a movie
Yes.
who doesn't have a great ending, but we
Yes.
all knew it was going to end this way.
Yes.
What happens?
He lives.
Spoiler
thank God.
alert.
I know, right?
The Vampire Slayer, is that what it's called? Or-
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. Yes.
that's the one you're talking about, right? That's,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
the historically accurate one.
That was a
Yeah,
bad
and then he
ending for
kills
the vampires.
Hitler and then goes after Bigfoot. Yeah.
Exactly.
They are all connected.
Yes.
Every
Okay,
Lincoln
have you
movie.
ever heard this is super random. Have you ever heard the theory that in episode 7 when
gosh.
Han Solo falls down into like the pit,
Yeah.
he like was magically like transported into the future into 1936 and he became
Indiana Jones? Oh my
And they're all connected, like all of those movies are
I've
connected.
heard
Every
that theory
Harrison Ford
before.
movie
Yeah,
is
they're all,
connected.
and then somehow he like he goes and is Indiana Jones until the 40s and 50s, and then he becomes the fugitive, and then he becomes
Oh
the Air
my
Force One,
gosh.
and
And
he's
then
just like
Blade Runner is the end
Blade
of it.
Runner is like the future one. So it's like it
That's
goes like full
awesome.
circle. So like literally, there's a map on Google. I think.
sounds like
and it's
a
the
great
whole
movie
circle
marathon.
of-
Right? I'm going to have to check that out.
Go in order. But
It's
yeah, so
interesting that Star Wars is like the,
first one.
beginning of it.
And then
Galaxy-
episode
Long time
7 is
ago.
like he's like
Yeah.
old man Ford, so it's like it makes no sense for him to go from that to that's the big loophole. But anyway, that's my super random thought.
Darn it, Disney. What'd
Lincoln
you
is a great
Darn
movie.
it, Disney.
Lincoln is
Yeah,
a great movie.
Lincoln. Where do we go? Yeah,
Great
Lincoln.
movie.
Daniel
Yeah.
Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis won
Dude.
whatever, how many Oscars
Yes.
total he won
and
after this one or whatever.
He deserved
Like
it.
100.
He deserved it. That was
Yeah.
such a good performance.
It's the male Meryl Streep.
Mm.
If he's in a movie, he's probably going to win an Oscar.
No
Mhm.
doubt.
But yeah, I love this movie. I love Abraham Lincoln. Any
Mhm.
story about him,
Mhm.
true or false, it's probably going to get watched or read by me. So yeah, one of my favorite presidents.
One of my favorite Spielberg movies ever is that one. I think it's really underrated.
Yeah.
Great movie. Number 2 for me is Darkest Hour. This movie is so good. I think it's in my top 10, for sure in my top 15 all time, regardless of genre. This is the World War II Winston Churchill movie.
Yeah.
That came out last year, a year and a half ago, something like that.
A couple years ago, I think. I can look.
Gary Oldman. Gosh, man, he's so good. He won an Oscar for
Which
for Best
movie again?
Actor.
Sorry.
Darkest Hour.
Dark Sour, nice.
So
2017.
basically, so basically, the whole movie's set in like the day he becomes prime minister until, like,
Dunkirk, right?
so Dunkirk happens in the middle of the movie, and then the Nazis are starting to bomb London.
Oh yeah.
And he gives like his famous speech, and that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Darkest Hour, because like the UK is basically like by themselves against the Nazis, because France is out of the war and the US won't join the war.
Right.
And so Winston Churchill's only weapon against the Nazis is literally like his like words.
Yeah.
And so he's able to rally his countrymen and fight the Nazis. So great movie. Gary Oldman's awesome. I love Winston Churchill. I named my son Winston. 99% of the reason was because I love Winston Churchill. So
What was the other 1%?
because
Because it's a cool name, dude.
and the initials are WLF, so that allowed us to call him Wolf, which is dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this movie. They're actually making a sequel. Apparently,
Yeah, you were
'cause
telling me
it was-
that.
it was so successful. They're making a sequel. So
Yeah.
history movies very rarely make money, and this movie made
Yeah.
a lot of money. So they're gonna do it again. So
Cool.
Hopefully they'll pick up where they left off and maybe even make a trilogy out of it. But Gary Oldman's so good, you got to just let him keep running with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
number
he did
2,
a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 for me is The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Oh, Willie Smith.
Great movie.
Dude.
Yeah.
I forgot that was a true story.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't think
So
I don't need to
sad.
sell this one to
So
anybody.
No.
sad.
Such a good movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just his
Tearjerker.
his drive and like just to do better for himself and his son and
The
stuff.
scene when he's crying in the bathroom is
Yeah.
just like,
I love the Rubik's Cube scene too
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
the
that's great.
taxi.
mm-hmm.
I think it's great. And just like starting out as an unpaid
Great movie.
internship, and just
Yeah.
like making your way. It's
You
crazy.
should go back on your top 5 underrated movies and put that one on.
Put that
we
one
should
on
all
there.
probably put that
It has
one
a
on there.
67%
So
on Rotten
underrated.
Tomatoes.
I was
which
gonna say,
so
I don't know
underrated.
if it's underrated because I remember when that movie came out, everybody loved it.
Really, no one ever talks about it. Like when they talk about like Will Smith, they talk about like good movies or whatever. Like that never comes up. Like I'm honestly surprised you said that. Like I haven't thought of that movie in 10 years.
it feels like it just came and went, and like everyone loved it when it was out, and then it's gone.
All right, that's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
got you.
it's
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
like
underappreciated. Is probably
Coney 2012. 12, kind of like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
things that were cool for a month.
Yeah.
The Harlem Shake.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't need to
Rip.
sell that one to anybody.
Great movie, man.
Number 2 for you.
Great movie.
Number 2 for me is Ray,
Mm.
the Ray Charles movie.
Oh, nice. With
that
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx won
Yeah.
an Oscar for.
Yeah.
Well, being a musician, it's not surprising that I had 2 music movies on there. I just love this movie, and his, again, with any of these movies especially, like, you really wonder how much of it actually happened, how much of it didn't happen,
Yeah.
did they make it up for the movie, whatever.
Right.
Tons of arguments can be made for that, but just his portrayal, Ray Charles' struggle, I mean, because it shows it from him as a child to essentially to where just like a few years before, well, no, let me take that back. I was going to say a few years before he died, but that's not exactly right.
When did that come out?
Let me look.
I remember watching that.
Early 2000s?
2004, yeah. Because I remember
Yeah, I was
watching
going to say, I thought it was
young.
pretty early. But I just love it. And I love the soundtrack for this movie as well. Because a lot of it is original Ray Charles recordings,
Yeah.
and some of it is Jamie Foxx because he learned to play piano. He learned,
Which
well,
is
he was a musician
awesome.
anyway. I think he did know how to play piano, but and just the voice training he had to go through. Because
Yeah.
Ray Charles has a really distinctive voice,
Mm-hmm.
but like he watched old tapes and everything and
Right.
really nailed it. And
It's
I
crazy
love it.
that he has an Oscar. Like, it feels weird saying that Jamie... Not that he's, like, a bad actor or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, like, Jamie
He's
Foxx has an
underrated,
Oscar.
too.
He is
Really-
underrated.
Really underrated. That'd
And
be a
he-
fun list to do. Be top 5
Underrated
actors. Yeah,
That'd be good.
it'd be fun.
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks, Will
Yeah.
Smith.
George Clooney,
Yeah.
yeah,
You guys
Brad
like
Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Yeah. What's his face?
Well, he might make the list. You can't remember him.
Leonardo
National
DiCaprio.
Treasure.
Oh, Nicholas
Nick
Oh,
Cage.
Nick
baby.
Cage.
Nick
Whoa.
Cage. Oh yeah, so
He's-
underrated.
he's the man. He's the man.
You guys want to guess my number 1?
Braveheart.
Yeah.
Number 1's Braveheart.
I think I sat at home last night and guessed AJ's entire list in my head.
That's funny.
So the first thing I do whenever we're making one of these lists is I consult my top 25 list that we used
Yeah.
way back when. That way I can say that I'm being consistent. Even if I'm wrong, I'm being consistent. So Braveheart was the highest rated movie on my list that happened to be based on true events. So
Yeah.
There you
by
go.
default, it is my number 1. But it is a great movie based on true story about William Wallace leading his people to freedom. Scotland earning their independence against
Scotland.
England, and then they made another movie called Outlaw King. That apparently
you
is like
seen
the
Outlaw King
follow-up.
yet?
Have you
I have
seen-
not seen it yet.
I've seen it.
I've heard it's
haven't
awesome.
either.
You haven't seen it?
I've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said it was good.
I said it was pretty good. The pacing is
Yeah.
super fast just because there's so much they have to get through.
Yeah.
And it's
'Cause
not
he's Earl
very
the Bruce,
long,
right?
right?
It's not a long movie. It's Chris Pine plays
The Bruce?
Yeah, the Bruce, and
Mhm.
the ending's pretty cool. The fight tactics they use are pretty.
I
sweet.
can't wait, dude. I'm gonna watch it.
You see Chris Pine's junk at one point,
Yep.
which
You told me that part.
yeah,
Of course, it was Netflix, man.
Yeah, no, right.
Stupid.
I need to watch Braveheart again. I've only seen that movie one time,
Bro.
Yeah,
and I did enjoy it, but I need to watch it
I
again.
will say it's good.
BYOT, man. Bring your own tissues. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Telling you. Hey, that movie, man. I think I
don't
was
cry
like
at too
13
many
when I
movies.
watched that movie, and I was weeping.
How many?
That was so sad.
That's what we need to make is the top 5 movies we cried in.
I was so sad.
How
I was literally like
many,
12 years old. I was like,
What's his name? Who's the guy that plays William Wallace?
oh, Mel Gibson.
Mel
Mel
bro.
Gibson.
Gibson. Sorry, I like
Also,
we've been
Mel
sitting here
Gibson is-
talking about him. Like, what's how
You
many
got
Mel Gibson
3
names
Mel
are
Gibson
on your
movies.
list?
So Mel Gibson directed Hacksaw Ridge,
Yeah,
was a star, and I think directed We Were Soldiers.
Yeah.
Was for sure
He
the
did.
star in Braveheart. Not
And
sure
he
if
directed it.
I thought he directed Braveheart. So.
Yeah, that was his debut.
Really? As a director?
I'm gonna look to make sure, but I'm
I know.
pretty sure that
I
was
know
his-
for a fact he directed
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge and We Were Soldiers. But
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah.
not completely sure about Braveheart.
so three.
No, he did. I'm
He
looking
won a
it up.
bunch of Oscars too.
He directed
You're a
it.
big
and that
Mel
was his
Gibson
debut.
guy.
Dude, I actually like whenever I make a list of like best directors and best like actors, Mel Gibson's usually not on the list. But I do love his movies. Like his top end movies are like,
Yeah,
really, really
so
good.
is he your actor crush as Christopher Nolan is your director crush?
No, he's really not. He really isn't. I don't like Mel Gibson that much. He just happens to be in like really,
Have you seen
really
Get
good
the Green
movies.
Arrow
False.
yet?
Your list is saying false.
I hate Mel Gibson.
I don't hate him. I don't hate him, but I don't love him. Like I'm not like a fanboy.
Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. It's alright. It's alright. My movie will help you out. It'll help you out.
I'm trying to think who my favorite actor is right now. I don't even know. RDJ's up there for sure.
Hayden Christensen.
Nah, heck no.
Robert
No.
Pattinson.
Nah.
Obi-Wan
Dude,
Kenobi.
literally, I was about to say
Ewan
Ewan
McGregor.
McGregor for that one role that he's played that I really liked.
Obi-Wan.
He's up there for
Hey,
me.
he's good in that Winnie the Pooh movie.
Oh, I hated that movie. I literally hated that movie.
He's
so much.
good in it though.
Like if I were making a bottom 5 list, that would be my bottom 5 list.
Why'd you hate it?
No joke. That movie was terrible.
Were you not a Winnie the Pooh guy? As
I
a kid?
was a Winnie the Pooh guy as a kid. I hated it.
All right.
Anyway,
Luke, number 1.
Braveheart is
Um,
awesome. Go watch Braveheart.
The Patriots, my number
Yes,
one.
yes. I thought about putting that on here, even though it's like not really based on a real person. But
Yeah.
hey,
It's a true events kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Revolutionary War.
I
Yeah.
really like the Revolutionary War.
Great movie.
Revolutionary War is like my favorite war to like read history about and stuff.
Yeah,
and
for
having like
sure.
this epic tale through it with like all the loss he has, and of
Yeah.
course Mel Gibson's like the like true story or based on a true story king of our world, and
Apparently.
so like yeah.
well, hey, I
according to
actually had Patriot on my list. I took it off because it was
Ah.
loosely based.
Yeah.
And it was another Mel Gibson movie. You guys would have called me a fan of it.
Yeah,
We
you
called
should have just had
anyways.
that and Passion of the Christ, and you'd have been golden.
I do like Passion of the Christ, honestly. It's a good movie.
But yeah, the Patriots. I mean, obviously, Revolutionary War. It's like he was what, like a super general in the French and Indian War.
He was like a famous,
He was like a
he was like
yeah.
famous
I don't think he was
hero.
a general,
He was
but
like
yeah,
a hero
he
from
Yeah.
became famous for chopping up
And just
Indians.
like, because
Yeah,
one thing I hate
messed
about
up.
the Revolutionary War was the freaking tactics
he-
they use. Like, let's stand up and like him.
oh yeah, just like stand in 2 lines right across from each other and shoot at each
seems
other.
Did he direct The Patriot?
No,
He didn't direct The
no.
Patriot.
The first movie he directed was
Well,
Braveheart.
Heath Ledger was
Patriot
great in
before.
it too.
Uh-huh. I'm pretty sure. Let me look.
Heath Ledger's in there too. He's awesome. The bad guy is Mr. Malfoy in Lucius
Yeah.
Malfoy.
Yeah.
He's a great bad guy.
He is good, but I mean, it's all around solid cast, like main character wise.
Great
and
movie.
then, yeah,
Oh no,
story's
Patriot
awesome.
came out after, 5 years after.
That's what I thought. I thought it was weird because he directed Braveheart. and then started-
Roland
started-
Emmerich directed
He's
Patriot.
he's the one who did The Day After Tomorrow
Let me look.
and Independence Day, maybe.
Huh?
Yeah, Independence Day, Godzilla, Day After Tomorrow.
Godzilla. Yeah, he
That's
made like
his
all those
known
movies,
for.
Like
all
the
back to back to
2014
back to back.
Godzilla?
No, the old one.
The 1998.
He made like 4 or 5 movies that were really popular, all back to
Yeah,
back
dude.
to back to back,
Hmm.
in the late '90s. Yep.
Interesting.
Good movie. I love The Patriot.
Yeah,
Great movie. Yep. Paul,
All
number
right.
1.
I just realized I had no war movies at all on my list.
That's
Hey,
crazy.
good for you.
I think I
appreciate
stayed
that.
away from them just
Yeah.
because I was like, I felt like that might be kind of a.
Kind of their own genre.
Mine is Moneyball.
Nice,
I thought
Brad
you were.
Pitt.
I thought you were gonna go that direction.
Love that movie so
Mhm.
much.
Great movie.
All about this is the only movie, and I think this might be why I like it, because I mean this movie came out in like 2015 or something or other,
Yeah.
but I remember 2011. I remember when this was happening, because it's all like from the. Let's see if it says what season it was, but like
Early 2000s, I thought.
yeah, it's like the early 2000s Oakland A's, and like I remember watching that, like not the games, but I remember watching highlights on ESPN from their 20 wins in a row. And so I don't know, I think that's just kind of an added cool factor for me to be like, yeah, I was alive when this movie happened.
Yeah, that was cool.
When you're a baseball fan too.
I'm a huge baseball
Okay,
fan.
so yeah,
so
I think like I've seen this movie at some point. I don't think I connected with it just because I'm not like baseball's probably my least favorite sport.
I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I like this movie. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like it enough to put it on my list, but I do like it.
Yeah.
And Paul's a big Brad Pitt fan
And
too.
Brad
so
Pitt's
that-
big
awesome,
Brad
yeah,
Pitt
yeah.
fan.
so
I do like
those
Jonah
two things
Hill,
combined. Yeah,
baseball.
yeah. It's a good movie though. It's a solid movie.
I appreciate that number one.
I
Thank you.
almost put
Oh yeah, and Philip
127
Seymour
on this.
Hoffman was the
Yeah,
manager.
I forgot about him. I almost put 42.
Yeah.
Oh,
I almost
yeah.
put that on here.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson.
Good movie, man.
Harrison Ford's on there. Harrison
Oh yeah,
Ford.
Harrison Ford was like
Yeah.
the
Underrated.
manager of the team or something.
He was the owner.
Oh, the
Or
owner of the team.
CEO, something like that.
yeah.
So weird.
And I almost put your Eagles movie on there. What?
Eddie the Eagle.
Papali.
Oh, Invincible.
Oh, Invincible.
I almost put that in my honorable
That's a good one,
mentions,
too.
and then
Almost put
I
that on
didn't.
there.
We could do an all sports one too.
I think
we might need to do that.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
All sports and all war.
Remember the Titans would be number 1 for me.
That's probably my
Yeah.
second favorite like sports one. Invincible.
Papali. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dude, Rocky's up there somewhere. Okay. Anyway, we've talked way too long about
No way.
the true story movie.
Hey, we were having a good time.
But
That's
hey,
all
I
that
do
matters.
love me a good history movie. I
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, have you guys ever seen the two movies that Clint Eastwood made about Iwo Jima?
Flags of Our Fathers
Iwo Jima?
and
Letters to Iwo Jima.
Oh, that's so good.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't. I thought.
You said you're not a Clint Eastwood guy.
I know you're not a Clint Eastwood fan, but these are his best movies, in my opinion.
Okay.
Like it's
Best directorial
not
movies.
even close. Yes.
I would agree.
Not even close. These two movies. One, so they're both about the exact same battle, and I almost put both of them on my list. They're both about the Battle of Iwo Jima. One is from the American side.
Yeah.
So it's all in English. It's all about the American strategy and American soldiers, and the Japanese are just kind of there.
Yeah.
The next movie is the exact same battle from the Japanese perspective. It's all in Japanese. The Americans are just like in the background.
Yeah.
It's all about like them defending their island and them defending their homeland and then like writing letters home to their family.
It's a cool
And then
concept.
Ken Watanabe is the general.
So
Oh,
good.
nice,
The
yeah.
second one's my favorite. I like that one better than the first
it's
one.
good.
The letters to Iwo Jima. Honestly, if you just want to watch that one, that's the better one in my opinion. They don't
I
they
would
don't
agree.
go together, but they are cool to watch like back to back.
Yeah.
They're
But
good.
it's a great movie if you want to see it. Another good war movie, but. Yeah, it'd be a fun list to do top 5 war movies. Mine's already made.
We'll
I
have to
guess,
make
but
notes of that. Right? Yeah. You're just gonna repeat.
I'll
so
pretty much just go. Okay, so this week we already watched the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Yep.
Paul's got the deets for that movie.
yeah. All right.
Go for it.
All right. So synopsis. In 1971, 24 male students are selected to take on randomly assigned roles of either prisoners or guards in a mock prison situated in the basement of the Stanford Psychology Building. So yeah, pretty good synopsis.
Yeah, pretty
there.
basic stuff. Yeah.
It was made in 2015. Actors are main actors that have name recognition are Ezra Miller,
The Flash.
The Flash, Ty Sheridan, who's he's in a few things.
He's
Ready Player One.
He's Cyclops in the new.
Yeah. Cyclops in the new X-Men movies.
X-Men movies, yeah.
One of the kids was the Ready Player One kid.
That was
Same
him.
dude.
That was
Same
him.
guy.
Yeah.
And then the professor is Billy. His last name is so funny.
Yeah.
Crudup.
Which I didn't
Or
recognize
Crudup,
him.
or
He looked like Matthew McConaughey.
he's been in a lot of other things. The thing that comes to my mind is Watchmen. I don't know if you ever watched
I've seen the Watchmen,
but he was the big blue dude.
Manhattan.
Yeah, Professor Manhattan.
Yeah.
Not the greatest movie in the world, but he is a good actor.
Super
I've seen him in
long movie.
other things. He's getting ready to be in this new TV show with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. It's all about a TV station. He's a great actor. So, director is Kyle Patrick Alvarez.
I've never heard of him before.
Never heard of him before either. So this one was actually super interesting to me. It's an indie film. I could not find the budget for this movie anywhere. So I just Googled average indie film budget, and it's around $750K.
Dang.
Yeah.
So
This
which
one
is
didn't need a very high budget.
No, it
Not
didn't
at
hardly
all.
need anything. Yeah.
not at all. But if we're going off of that number, and again not knowing the exact, it earned $668,000.
Dang.
So would have lost money if that was correct.
Mm-hmm.
Ratings are 6.9 on IMDb, 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, 67 on Metacritic.
Interesting.
It's a
I didn't
kind
know it was an indie film.
It's kind of
I had no
I
idea.
could-
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed it didn't make
Yeah.
any money. I knew that, but
Yeah.
I think it was in it. I think I could tell it was any film just from
Well,
the
I
way
mean,
it was
at the-
shot.
the-
And
like-
then,
I didn't know that. Like
Well-
it literally, like
Like one of the opening rolling credits is indie films.
yeah,
really. I
Yeah,
didn't watch
that's
that
right.
part, I guess.
That's all right. I noticed that kind of
Here's
crap.
your.
we'll give you a pass.
Here's your
Yeah.
sign.
yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Which comedian is the Here Your Sign?
Bill Engvall.
Bill Engvall, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I guess it never went to the theaters.
No,
I don't know about that, but
don't think so.
I
Probably
would
all that
think-
money they've made is like their deal they made with Netflix.
Or no, I think it actually was. I think I did see that like box office totals.
Oh, really?
So I think it did go to theaters, but it probably not for very long.
I'd never heard of
Probably
it
like a
before.
select few theaters. Like it probably made its way around all the film festivals and stuff, and then like
Right.
went into probably like 20 theaters or something like that.
So
Yeah,
It's crazy that their budget was so low.
yeah. So an interesting thing that I found was that maybe not a detail about this particular movie, but there were at least 2, if not 3, other movies that were based on the same thing.
movies or documentaries.
Movies. No, movies.
Really?
Like one of them was called The Experiment, and it's got Adrian Brody and Saw Gerrera, whoever that played him in Rogue One. Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
But it was, and I didn't really dive into it, but there were at least 2 other movies that were
Really?
but they weren't like, I don't think it was based on, like, it didn't say the Zimbardo guy is doing this. I think it was more dramatized,
Loosely based.
yeah, more loosely based.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I feel like it just feels like it's actually more accurate. Whereas these are like maybe. Because the experiment looked like it actually was in like a prison.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I thought that was interesting that something that I would have never thought about doing, period, was actually been made into multiple movies. So, that was an interesting fact to me.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, well,
So, yeah.
shall we?
Yep.
Yeah,
let's get
let's,
into it.
The idea/premise. For me, it's really hard to judge an idea/premise of a movie that's based on true story. Like, you know, like it's hard to like give it a score.
Yeah.
Because it's like they chose the story because it's a cool story because it's in like but it's based on true story, so it's like I don't know. But for me, like I loved the idea of like just making a movie about an actual like social experiment with human subjects. Like that was really cool that it was like set up that way, like with like the science-y kind of side, like. To it, but also like the scene where he explains the experiment like over like a 5 or 10 minute period of time to the kids and to the different groups of people or whatever, and like walks around the building and shows them the different rooms and things. Like that was all really cool, I thought. Just like setting it up for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then the rest of the whole movie is like literally like the experiment. And you at one point there's like you're even like what the heck. So as far as the idea premise go, I thought it was like literally. But yeah, so it's hard to judge. I gave it a 9 because like I love the setup of the movie and I love the idea and the premise of the movie as far as like the actual experiment side of it goes. But like I said, it's really hard to judge. So I'm not really sure even if we should like do this category for a true story movie. But I don't know. I want to hear y'all's thoughts.
Okay, so I thought, like you said, I thought the experiment itself is a cool idea and like all that, but like I absolutely don't think this movie needed to exist. I don't think any movies about this experiment need to exist.
So I think me and you are on the same wavelength.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Because, like, I would have much rather watched, like, a documentary on this. Because I think with how the results happened, it didn't make... I'll talk about this more when we get to plot, but it didn't make a good plot. It didn't... The movie suffered because it was so realistic, I think. And so... I don't think this was a good choice in things for them to make a movie about. Like, obviously, people think it's a good idea to make a movie because they made 3 movies, like, somewhat based on it, at least.
Yeah.
And so I gave this section a 5 just because like I said, I don't think it needed to exist just because it suffered from what it was trying to tell a story about.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the way I judged this was on the actual person's idea of the experiment, and because I agree with you, this section is very hard to judge a true movie. So I think I judged it on, was his idea even to do this a good idea? And so I also gave it a 5 because I was like, because if he had a good reason for doing this, he didn't say it. Like, he didn't say, I'm doing this because I want to show that the judicial system is corrupt and the guards are stupid or whatever. If he'd have said something like that, maybe I would have scored it higher. But just from the fact of, I want to do an experiment about people in prison. Like,
he was super attached to this too. Like, the whole experiment, it was like, he was like weirdly attached to it.
Which, and so I will get into this next, but like, the character like of that really kind of got me. But so it's
interesting. So I think I can't remember if he actually stated the purpose or not, but I feel like maybe
he didn't.
Maybe he never did.
Not in this movie.
Really, I feel like he said there was one line at one point talking about how like he was doing it for a reason. He was doing it for like the benefit of other people, and I took that as like what you said. Basically, like, I want to study what prison does to a human being, how it strips away their individuality, how it forces them to lose who they are, how it forces them to fall underneath the like abusive power of the judicial system.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the idea behind it, whether he stated that or not, which I agree with you that he didn't state it very clearly, obviously.
It's kind of like randomly stated throughout the movie, like a little bit like
maybe
bits and pieces.
Another part
He
of this-
defends it a lot, which is kind of a red flag that he has to like defend himself
Right.
to
Yeah.
people, which I totally agree with that part, which we can get into right now if you want to with the character. But for me, the experiment was something that he wanted to do because he wanted to actually see what would happen, and then take his results and bring those to the government or to whoever. And then obviously he had no clue,
none at all,
no clue how fast the thing would fall apart and how fast it would just blow up in his face.
Totally.
And then obviously he was kind of powerless to stop it.
Totally.
Because he wanted to be true to his experiment. And
So,
then, obviously...
Was he the villain of this movie?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
That's a great question. I think I wrote down a ton. I probably wrote down more meta questions and more like discussion questions for this movie than I have...
Good, because I didn't write down... I wrote down a couple.
Than I have probably for any movie other than Endgame.
Because I don't see the guards, the kids is playing as the guards, as the enemies. They were
Right.
just playing the guards.
Right, they were just doing a job.
The
And
other...
then I see him as the enemy of the movie.
The other reason
I
I
would
gave
agree.
the premise a 9 was literally the only thing that separated the guards and the prisoners was a coin flip.
Yeah.
That was the only thing, because literally not one of them asked to be a guard.
Right.
They all asked to be prisoners, and he was
they
like,
said it'd be easier.
because they said it'd be easier.
Yeah.
And which is funny because obviously like
That didn't
I didn't
matter.
know chewing. But to me, I thought that was amazing. Like psychologically and like as an experiment, that's crazy that you gave this kid a pair of sunglasses,
In a uniform.
uniform, and a nightstick,
Yep.
and literally said, "You're in charge," and this is what happened.
Yep.
Like within hours, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And all that gave him that authority was a coin. Like that part of the premise was, to me, that was awesome to watch. It was like Lord of the Flies, literally on screen. It was, to me, I thought that was really interesting and really dynamic. But
Yeah. I mean, I understand your point. I look at it again. I'm probably going to be the complete opposite of you. Like, if this is an experiment, I would have liked for him to actually have been a psychologist and say, this would be better if he was a guard.
Yeah.
You know, rather than, all right, let's flip a coin. Like, I don't know, a lot of the choices. I think the thing, and this kind of is a setup thing a little bit too, is like, why did you do it in the basement of, like, it just didn't seem real.
I think he gave off the like facade that he did know what he was doing, but I think underneath he had no absolute clue of what he was doing, because he had to bring in like an actual like ex-con prisoner to like kind of be like a consultant on the thing. He had those other 3 guys. I think it came down to him just like, I think it came down to his ego and like who he thought he was, because I don't think underneath he actually knew what he was doing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think his character has messed that, and I think that's really interesting. To me, what you're talking about as far as the coin and the credibility and the being in the basement or whatever, that was all predetermined for the filmmakers based on the history.
Right.
And so, to me, their hands were tied. With all of that stuff. But I do agree with you, like, be a psychologist and, like, say, hey, you're showing these qualities and, like, at least make a decision for them.
Do it.
Right, yeah.
Which I think there was part of that. But they didn't really show that. They didn't show that
Which
part.
he wasn't even part of like the screening process, was he?
He was.
He was sitting there.
He was?
He was like, he was watching it go down.
He was
Oh, okay.
sitting
I thought
there.
it was just those 3 guys that were sitting there.
The staff were asking the questions, but he was just sitting there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So characters.
Character.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters that I thought of that were worth talking about. And first one we've already gotten pretty well into is Zimbardo, the professor. So the next character I think was worth talking about, maybe, and you can agree or disagree, was 8612.
Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller's character.
Okay. The characters in this movie are so interesting because 8612 rebels.
Yep.
And then loses his mind.
Goes bonkers.
Like legit.
Yeah.
Like the psychologists think he's like faking it.
Right.
I don't know if he was or not, but that dude looks like legit insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have the one guy with the mustache. I have no idea what his number was. Or his name was.
1037. That's another one that I wanted to talk about.
He's like, just go with the flow, man. It's $15 a day. We're just chilling. We're just chilling.
Yep.
Okay. Then you have the dude who lived in the car.
Yeah.
Who, like,
2093.
he just needed the money, and he was like, I will literally do anything.
Yeah, and
he doesn't even like, and that kind of comes around the end.
Yeah.
As a part of the plot. Then you have the little kid who plays Ready Player One and
819. Yep.
Yeah. And he's like cool with everything. He's just kind of going along until the end, and he starts losing it. And then you have the kid who comes in at the end, like last day.
Yeah, I didn't really
like
feel like he was
super random, but he's kind of an interesting like viewpoint because he comes in, he's like, "Why are you guys doing this?" Because they've been there for 5 days and they're like so brainwashed, and he's like, "Yeah, what the heck?"
Right.
And so that was kind of cool. Like his character was lame, but like that was a cool like,
perspective,
variable perspective.
Yeah. I agree.
The ex-con.
Yes,
he was interesting.
He was, I think, my favorite character of the whole movie.
He was interesting to me. The doctor guy, the Zimbardo, he was awesome. Like from a character's perspective, like he was crazy and messed up and had a gajillion layers we could break down, right? But to me, he was the most interesting character, as far as
he was the most fleshed out. I
dynamic,
think.
Yeah.
Was he a villain?
I think so.
He had to be.
I mean,
he literally had to be. He's sitting there at the computer at one point, just or not computer, but the screen, just watching, and literally, like at the very end of the movie, he's like crying because he's like, "Holy crap, what have I?"
Well, he's sitting there the
done?
whole time, just letting stuff that he said he would not let happen. He's sitting there letting it happen.
First day, he says, "Yeah, there's none of this, none of this, none of this,"
and all those rules pretty much get broken.
Literally within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
so that was actually a part that I was okay with. And this may be more of a plot thing.
And
but
him
like
letting it go.
Because you're not going to have a true prison experiment experience if you don't have that crap.
Right.
Like, dudes are going to get beat up.
Right.
Like,
okay, so, the other character I want to talk about is John Wayne.
Yes. So now you've now hit on all the characters I wanted to talk about.
So, I don't care which order we go in. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, go ahead.
But, so, who was your favorite character? Or most interesting character?
Most interesting character,
John Wayne was crazy. Like he literally would like turn it on and turn it off, like whenever he wanted. Like he's doing the fake accent, and he literally goes in the locker room and is like, "Hey guys, that was pretty fun." Yeah,
I think I couldn't stand him because I know people in real life that are actually like that, just like losers.
Super fake.
Yeah.
Well, then at the end of the movie, he's like doing the interview with 8612.
Yep.
I did like that interview.
And
I thought
he's
that was
literally
cool.
just like, yeah, okay. And then whenever Zimbardo walks in at the very end and like ends the experiment, he's like, does that mean we're not getting paid for this?
Yeah.
And he like does not care.
Yeah, he just like clicks right out of it.
Yeah, like that's so crazy.
Like he's just making him do these like just god awful things,
so
and then all
crazy.
of a sudden just like,
it's
all right,
so
well,
crazy.
we're done.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, like it was only really like a psychological experiment. Do you think? Like,
Yeah.
For like the prisoners, it seemed like almost because all the guards just kind of turned it off. Like they were all playing parts. It felt like
the one guard,
the
one guard who was on John Wayne's like crew, who never talked,
didn't want to do anything,
never wanted to help. Like they never like brought that around. I was waiting for them to bring it out, but they never did.
Yeah.
But like he was interesting too because he was one of the guards who like he gives a guy a cigarette at one point.
Yeah.
He like tells him, "Hey bro, just like, just listen, just shut up," or whatever.
Yeah.
He like tries to like help him all the time. But he just like literally just sits there and he doesn't say stop. He doesn't make them stop. So like to me you had like the abuse of power, you had the people who were rebelling, you had the people who didn't care, you had the people who were blowing it off, and then you had people who could have stopped it who chose not to stop it. So like you literally have like all of the possibilities of what a human would do in that situation fleshed out in different people.
Yeah.
So to me that was why I ranked the character. I gave the character an 8 out of 10. I agree with y'all that some of the characters were lame. Some of the characters were messed up. For sure, the professor guy is just crazy. Like he's what's crazy is like the experiment. At one point, they even say it that the experiment like involves them now. Like they're a part. of the experiment.
They're a part. I did like
and
that.
He was
line.
like, "We're a part of the experiment now, whether we want to be or not." And I was like, "Dang!"
I did like that
that's
line.
Crazy.
There's a couple good lines. I think at the very end, the kid was saying like, "We're not like we're not something. We are their prisoners."
Yep. I think that was the same dialogue that he's
Was
talking
it the same
about.
one? Yeah, he says like, we're not prisoners in an experiment. We are their prisoners. Like,
well, and then his wife or girlfriend or whatever like walks out, and then he's like, "Oh, you just got to come back and see my prison." She's like, "Your prison?" And I was like, "Dang, this guy." Anyway, then the parole board scene was crazy for the ex-con.
Yes, that was one of my favorite.
That was his character's kind of moment.
Yeah, like I would say him. The prisoner got his name was Jesse. And believe it or not, my other favorite character was John Wayne.
I'm with you.
But I loved, because he really did. Like, I wanted this movie to be in an actual prison, but not with actual guards, but like I wanted it to be a real thing. Like when it was in the basement and everything, I was like so turned off. But like that they had an actual guy come in and say, and he was one of the guys who was like, no, don't stop them. Let them do that, because if you stop them, this isn't real.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was a big part of it, was because 8612 was one of them that was like,
well,
this is real, guys. Stop jerking around.
And 8612 at one point is like, talking about all these problems he's having, and Jesse's like, nah, dude, this guy's like, he's weak. He's not.
Yep.
He's not whatever. He's just weak. And that was crazy. Like that, he just like called him out like that. But then he does the parole board scene, and then afterward, he's like, I just became everything I hated.
Yep.
And like he goes on that kind of rant.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, totally. And that was, I think, why I really liked him too, because you just saw him break at that point. He just was like,
he just wants to leave.
I just can't believe that I turned into this.
This level is going on.
So yeah.
Well, and then he but then he asks.
Here, hold on one second, guys. We'll just pause for a second and let them.
Got some violent tail whips.
Yeah. New dog. He's still figuring it out.
You're doing your best, though, right?
Say, well, I still like to pee in the house occasionally.
But then he asks the professor to let 1037 go.
Yeah.
Right? He just says, he says, like, parole him for me or whatever.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you see Zimbardo breaking too. Is after that, which
Jesse's the one who actually taught him, or actually got him to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consultant's the one, like, dude, you gotta take it easy or something.
Yep. But yeah, my note that I wrote that I want to hear y'all's thoughts are for character. The dehumanization of the prisoners, like, was crazy how it started, and then it just built and built, and literally within however many hours, the kids writing letters home and signing his name as that prisoner. And then they're going to the parole board, and they're identifying themselves as the number. They're calling their friends by their numbers. Like that was nuts. Like how fast, like the human mind, delineated.
Like, all that stuff to me felt. I mean, I obviously wasn't in the experiment, but all of it felt so unbelievable to me. I was like,
really?
I was like, I don't believe any of this. Like I wasn't in the experiment obviously, but I was like, man, I just don't know if I'd like.
Dude, but literally, like, they had no watches, they had no clocks.
That was the coolest part about it.
No windows. So literally, the one kid's like, "Oh, dude, we've been here for like 2 weeks," and it was like day 2.
Well, and we never even knew what time it was,
and we never knew how much
day it was.
Right, and they never knew what time it was, whether the guards were on night shift or day shift, or how long the guards were in their shift or whatever.
Yeah.
And like literally, they'd been there for 2 days, and this kid's like, "Man, we've been here for like 7 weeks and whatever." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is like never gonna end." And like, so that was crazy, like how fast, like the prisoners, like, because at first they're all like joking around, right? And they turn around, they're like, haha, dude, you know, like, whatever, bro. Yeah. And they like eat their food and like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, man. And then like literally the night shift guy rolls in, and it's like, we're going down. So I thought that was crazy as far as the characters go. The other thing that I agree with you guys on, and I think this was kind of nuts too, was like how far the professor was willing to let things go. Because like whenever to me, the turning point in the movie was when 8612 punched the guard in the face, or the guard punched 8612 in the face. Like when that happened, that was day 1. When that happened, that's when everything was like, this is about to get real bad.
Yeah, that I would agree that it was a turning point. Man, and this may say a little bit too much about my personality. But it just shows that I could never do like something like this because I would have been popping them like 5 minutes in. Like
dude, what the heck?
But yeah, like just from the fact of I thought it was just gonna from then on they were just gonna like be just beating the snot out of them. But yeah, I will say I probably scored it a little low. In all honesty, after really thinking about it now, this probably was the best part of the movie was just to see them because they became. What's a word I'm trying? They made them not feel like human beings. Made them feel like animals.
At one point, they have the visit with their family.
Yeah,
and the guy's like, I think prisoners should have rights. And then this guard's like, prisoners don't have rights. And he's like, dang. Like,
he's like, not here they don't.
He's like, not here they don't. And it's like just things like that. And that kid like smiles and gives him the thumbs up. And you're like, what in the world? Like it's crazy.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
what'd y'all give it for character?
So I gave it a 6. What'd you give it?
I also gave it a 6.
Yeah, we may actually have the same score.
Yeah, we don't have the exact same score.
But I mean, I probably could change this to like a 7. I may not go as high as an 8, but I do. After really talking through it and thinking through it again, the character development was actually. I think I may actually more attribute it to they did an amazing job acting.
They were so good.
That part of it. That's why cinematic elements is the highest thing I scored. Was just because of the great, like, if it had been poor acting, I probably would have turned this movie off.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But, like, and I can't really decide if that was a character thing or if it was an acting thing. So.
No, I totally agree.
I was pretty firm on my 6, like, just because I felt, to me at least, I felt like very minimal character development, if anything. Like maybe the professor was some.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it really in like I said, to me, like again, I wasn't in the experiment, but a lot of what happened didn't feel very believable to me. Like I believe that it did happen. It's just like I think the way they portrayed it in the movie was off. Like
I got you.
To me it didn't feel right.
See, that's crazy because when I was literally watching it, there was one point I was really like, I don't even know if this is like a real experiment anymore, or if this is like legit just gonna happen. And this is like I was so like I don't know, man. Like I hear you like 100%. Like if you're not invested in this movie like in the first 15 minutes, I can totally see how this movie was like bad and not enjoyable at all.
Which I was invested in it. It's I think I was invested to a point. And then this is more plot, but it's once 8216 left. That's where that movie took a nosedive for me.
See, to me,
I was glad he was gone personally.
See, me too. And I think him leaving allowed the next couple of characters to step center stage and kind of take over. That's when the professor became more of a character. That's when Jesse became more of a character. That's when 819 became more of a character.
And even 1037, the mustache guy.
1037 became more of a character. And so I think like he was awesome. He carried the movie for the first 30 to 45 minutes for sure.
Like sure, he was a very annoying prisoner.
No doubt. His voice was so annoying.
That's just him.
And again, I think that was acting.
That's just him being a great actor. Yeah. Because he was a baby and he was weak and he was all those things, but he was also like freaking out in his head because like all these things were happening. And then John Wayne, I thought, carried the movie from that. Whenever he left, I thought the rest of the movie was carried by John Wayne and the professor, obviously. But
I never felt like the other prisoners. I never felt like they were main characters. I thought to me it felt like it was the professor, the John Wayne, and then 8216 felt like the main characters.
Yeah.
And so whenever 8216 left and they tried to fill that hole with the other prisoners, to me they were already established as sub characters to him as prisoners. And so for me they didn't fill that void.
See, I agree with you. I think what was interesting was they were all in on the rebellion, right? Except for the one cell block over there.
Oh yeah.
But the other like 8 guys were all in, and then when he leaves, they're all like, "Well, we should probably like chill it out."
Well, they say that later too. Like he was like the leader. No one followed him. That's why he went crazy.
That's why he lost. Was because whenever he literally lost is when he lost it. Like mentally was because he lost the battle and he lost control. But so then the other guys were all like, yeah, this guy's gone, so might as well just like do what the guards say. And they all kind of like slowly degenerated into the same mentality that 8612 had. And that's whenever we see 819 kind of have his like mental breakdown.
because he made that deal with him that he's going to come back for us, and then he didn't.
He just kept waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, and then he kind of broke down too. So
gosh, that's so crazy.
I mean, it was interesting. So.
Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and give our scores for plot? Because we kind of dove into that a little bit.
Yeah, for me, the plot was the weakest point of the movie. I gave it a 7. It was like, to me, there was no plot other than like the natural, not even progression, the natural digression of what was happening.
Yeah.
So it was like in a traditional movie, you have like whatever happens at the beginning, and then a bunch of different things happen, and then like something bad happens, and then awesome like climax happens. That's like the general flow of any movie. This movie was like things just like got worse and literally worse and worse and worse, and the whole movie, which I didn't mind that. Like I didn't mind it not having like a traditional like plot structure, but to me that was the weakest point of the movie, was that nothing really advanced. So I agree with Luke on this point, where the plot was kind of weak and boring and stale.
Yep.
But to me, it was character driven enough for me to stay interested.
I got you.
What do y'all think?
As someone that didn't really care for the characters all that much, obviously it wasn't character driven to me. So I mean, I gave the plot a 6. I said that there was climactic points throughout, like when they bust out, like he picks the lock and they bust out. But I said there was no real climax.
Right.
Like you might say that it's when the professor runs in at the end. He's like, can't handle it anymore. He's like, stop. But I think the delivery of that scene wasn't good enough to really count as a good climax. To me, it was just like he runs in. Of course, he's emotional about it, but he's like, "We can't do this anymore," and then it ends.
Yeah.
Like to me, there was no real climax in the movies. There's movies that had climactic moments,
right?
Like they kind of felt like mini climaxes here and there, but there was no big climax. I also said the second half of the movie was pretty stagnant for me. It was once after 8216 left, because there was just things were happening when he was around.
Yeah,
and of course he was an annoying character, and like you guys, I was kind of glad he was gone, just because, like you said, he was whiny, he was the baby. But again, I think he helped with. The plot when he was there, and so after that, having those side characters trying to not carry the plot, but just like fill in those plot areas, I think that left it pretty stale. Like there's a bunch of scenes they had where, like, you know, they met with the guy. He wanted to go home for his 23rd birthday. I was like, that's kind of messed up.
The parole board,
like Jesus.
Yeah.
For me, that was boring. Like, okay, so the first maybe 45 minutes of the movie before 8216 left, like I was fully tuned in. Then once he left, I started to get bored. That's when I started like checking my phone and like doing like kind of. I started losing my attention because I think it was so stagnant. And so I mean, I gave it a 6, and like honestly, I might bump that down to a 5 after I just convinced myself that I didn't like it that much. But
no, I agree with you. I think plot is the weakest point in this movie. I totally agree. I don't agree as much as I did not like it as much as you did, but I do agree with you that the plot was weak. I think for me, 8612 carries the plot until halfway, and then the experiment itself becomes the A story throughout the rest of the movie. Meaning, we see the degeneration of the rest of the prisoners. We see the abuse of power with the guards. We see the professor and the other staff literally getting mad at each other and losing it, and they become a part of the experiment, and the experiment starts affecting them. It affects his relationship with his girlfriend. Jesse starts being affected. And the one kid just flat out leaves. One of the staffers just leaves. And so I think that was, to me, interesting enough to keep me invested. But I do agree with you. To me, the climax is interesting because not very many movies would use what we call an anticlimax. But this movie was literally an anticlimax because we're waiting for something to happen. And he just walks in and says, "No, we're done." And that is literally like one of the most anticlimactic things ever. So I agree with you. I can't decide if that was a good thing or a bad thing, like for an anticlimax to be the climax of the movie. It was the emotional climax of the movie because the professor is literally like realizing what he's done. And, ending it. So that was kind of the emotional climax, if you will. But I agree. I think it was anticlimactic, and I honestly still am not sure if I think it was a good decision or a bad decision to end the movie like that. The resolution at the end was crazy. Like whenever they start doing like the interviews and things, like that was nuts. Like afterward, That was crazy. That was a really good decision on their part, I thought.
We've brought it up before. I think the big thing with this movie is that, I think I said this, it suffers from being based on this experiment. And I think that's why it makes it anticlimactic. I think that's why the plot suffers.
Yeah.
Is because it is based on this specific thing.
Yeah. I think, man, it's tough. It's really tough because I think this experiment is so interesting.
Yeah, the experiment itself is
from a psychological
interesting,
perspective.
and that's why I'd like to see it like in a documentary form or something like that, with interviews with actual people or something. Because I mean, they're probably still alive. The movie is.
They should be. It was in the 70s, 71.
Yeah, so they should be.
They're in their 70s,
still alive.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, 100% on this movie shouldn't have been made. I don't know, man. I think the over dramatization of the stuff, of the action, with like the hyper realism, to me worked almost on like I'm trying to think of another example. I don't know. I'm trying to think of another example that's based on a true story that has kind of like that same vibe where it's like just super, super legit. Yeah. You know, like Lincoln's a little bit dramatized. We Were Soldiers a little bit or whatever. I'm trying to think. Let me think. The movie we talked about, Stink. I'll think of it. But anyway, so I think like that. Argo. That's
Argo.
What I was thinking of. Argo is like this movie in the sense of it is so like historically accurate and it's so driven by like that plot that it suffers a little bit. And I agree with that like idea that like they were so true to the story that they could have made it a little bit better. Yeah. So I agree with you. The anticlimax thing's tough. That's a really, really tough way to end a movie because you're just like, man, I just watched 2 hours of that movie for that. But
2 hours and 2 minutes, I think was the right time.
But to me, like it was worth it because we got to see the professor come full circle. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Man, so 100% agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I think I can add to it, other than my score of a 5, would be, I think. And I hadn't thought about this until you started talking about how it all just goes straight down. I would say, and it may be called an anticlimax, I'm not sure, but the climax, as I was thinking about it, for me probably was right after the parole hearing. Was because that, and it's like a reverse climax, if you will, it made the movie immediately go down quicker. Right. Whereas, because at that point, that's when he said, because he had that down with Jesse, let the guy go. Then he started breaking down. So like it was just it was like the bullet at the end.
That parole board scene is awesome.
It was crazy.
It's 10 minutes of just
wow. Yeah. So I mean, I agree. That's all I really have to add to that. I feel like we hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, we did. So conflict, tension, urgency to me was the strongest section.
It was. I do feel like it was good, just from the conflict of the guards and the prisoners.
The conflict was through the roof, and the tension was insane.
I wasn't feeling very much urgency.
The urgency, I agree.
Urgency, no,
I agree with. I wrote down. I don't know if you guys agree. I thought there was a weird sense of urgency because of the lack of movement in the time. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense, really. But to me, it felt like. The fact we didn't know what time it was, the fact we didn't know day or night, we didn't even know what day it was hardly until they flashed like the day one, day
whatever.
And so to me, that gave the movie a little bit of urgency, which I'm not defending. The urgency is really slow, and it's really there's no urgency at all. So, but to me, that kind of gave like a weird sense of urgency in the sense of, holy crap, we've only been here for 12 hours, like. This is insane. Yeah. So to me, that added a little bit. That's probably more tension, I guess, than urgency. But to me, this was the strongest section because of the conflict with the guards and even the internal conflict with 8612, like literally losing his mind. Like that was crazy. So I thought the conflict and tension were both phenomenal.
It's the tension for sure. Every time the guards show up, literally, you're like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen?
No doubt.
Now?
Yeah, no doubt.
I think there was no urgency, probably because you knew the length of the experiment
the whole time. Yeah.
And I think
sort of, because they said it was going to be 2 weeks, and it only lasted 6 days, which I didn't Google.
Right.
Which I mean, I know, like after the fact, I was like, oh yeah, it only lasted 6 days, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I think
But
like
yes,
knowing that time beforehand, like
Mm.
that this is an experiment, and like
It's ongoing.
clearly
kind of
nothing's gonna get like things are
Right.
gonna get out of hand, but nothing's gonna get too out
Crazy.
of hand.
thing. Right.
I think that is why there was no urgency, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
just what it is. I'm just saying that's probably why there was no urgency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I gave this section a 9 out of 10.
I also
thought
gave
was
it a
awesome.
9.
Yeah.
That was my highest scored section.
I gave it a 7 for no
For
urgency.
urgency. Yeah, I knocked it a point, but I agree. I think the urgency was lacking. Their choice of not choosing to tell you how long they'd been there, I thought that was
Yeah.
a great decision.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I mean, the only thing I might disagree with you a little bit on as far as like the timing thing, like you could have made a judgment of saying, oh, John Wayne was the night guard time, and you know, you could have figured that out, but
Well, so Callie and I actually watched this last night, and we were talking about it. I have no idea if this is true or not, but I would assume that the professor rotated their shifts
maybe.
randomly. Not randomly, but like one shift was 3 hours, one shift was 6 hours, one shift was 5 hours. That way they like had no idea.
Right.
Like they were the
That could
same,
have been possible.
They were the same time of day ish
I got you.
for the guard's own sake, but for the prisoner's sake, they mixed up the time lengths, and so that kind of that was another way of messing with their
That could make
their
sense.
sense
That
of
makes
time.
sense.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but that was just something we like
Kind
we
of
assumed
worked out.
might have
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I agree. Tons of tension, and that's why
Every time
it's not
John
docked.
Wayne opened his mouth, I was literally like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cinematic elements. I gave it an 8 out of 10. There wasn't really a whole lot to base this off of. I thought
No.
I thought the acting was phenomenal for how low of a budget and how no name everybody was, basically.
Yeah,
But like 3 or 4 people maybe.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought some of the shots were cool. They chose to kind of linger on some things that was cool. They chose to go in and out of focus sometimes. That was cool.
Racking the focus, yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And I just thought
The writing was really good as far as the dialogue goes,
Yeah.
and the when to speak, when not to speak, what to say, that kind of stuff.
I thought the set stuff like that was accurate to 1971 of like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was
the
good.
costumes were great. The way they looked, the way they I thought that was good stuff.
Yeah.
The interviews at the end were awesome. I thought those were really that was a great
thought
idea
that
to
was
do
cool.
it with the actors, but afterward clearly where they were more sane, they were in their street clothes. Like I
Yeah.
thought that was a cool
Right.
touch.
I wish they would have done that with the real people,
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
but
Not sure how
it was still cool with the actors.
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would have worked. I don't know. I honestly I haven't done any research at all on this.
I haven't done much either.
So I don't even know. Callie looked into some of it last night, but she said there wasn't much out there. Like most of it is like super under wraps because people were like didn't want to talk about it whenever they got done with it.
Yeah.
which
It
I
doesn't
wouldn't
surprise me.
I wouldn't want to either. Gosh.
Yeah, I wonder, and I'm probably not going to read it. You might just because you're an English teacher.
Yeah.
The book.
I saw the book. I might skim over it. I don't know. I might look
Yeah,
on it.
I don't.
Amazon.
If you do, just because I wonder how much of it is
Yeah. Well,
is what he actually
he wrote it, didn't he?
Yeah, the
professor
Zimbardo
wrote-
guy, but he called it the Lucifer effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really I don't know. It almost intrigues me enough to try and read it and just to see how he actually ended seeing it.
I'll
Yeah.
probably look for like a PDF or something
From his point of
online.
view and
From
everything.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that really was because at the end there's that little snip that says Zimbardo still does speaking and everything,
Yeah.
but on the effects of
The abuse of power.
abuse of power. So
Yeah, his whole like study kind of changed to
yeah,
It changed from
and I
like the
think that-
prison system to like just in general, like how people abuse power.
Yeah, and see, I think that may have been a thing that kind of knocked it for me too. Of like, dude, commit, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
he
anyway,
seems so committed throughout this whole thing, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Which that's crazy. Like that might even be like a larger issue, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the abuse of power is a larger issue than
right.
right.
Like
And
the
see, like that's kind of
judicial
why
system.
I do
Mhm.
want to maybe just peek at the book. You know,
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
give it a gander.
Your score?
I gave it a 7 just because I think AJ, you said this earlier. There wasn't like nothing special. They didn't really take
Yeah.
any risks with
Yeah,
anything.
I agree.
They could have done some cool camera shots from inside the cells and stuff like that. But
Right.
like, it's not a bad thing that they didn't take risks, which is why I scored it a 7, which I think is like a perfectly like average score.
Yeah.
It was a solid movie. Not a great cinematically a solid movie, but not exceptional.
Nothing
Yeah.
crazy. It was very, very safe in everything they did.
Yeah.
The acting was, like you guys said, good. But yeah, the camera stuff was very, very safe. I mean, they did have, if this stuff was true, if they did film it this way, they were dealing with very small spaces, which they did a great job with that. I mean, which obviously just depends on what lens you use of how well you can do in that. But still, they had maybe total like 20 different camera angles throughout that thing. It wasn't like too crazy. Because they maybe dealt with like 5 different rooms in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't
couple of
much
hallways.
to it. Which you can tell by the budget of maybe the expected budget of this movie, $700K, which does seem pretty accurate and very minimal
I would
set,
say.
very very minimal like camera stuff. They probably like
I don't think there was ever a time when there were more than 2 or 3 cameras rolling at once.
No, they had like a couple different angles of stuff, but
maybe during like the scenes where they're doing the interviews or the parole stuff. But other than nothing crazy.
It was all dark. Nothing was very like too bright.
The tones were fun. I thought like it made it look older. Like they made it look like it was the 70s with some of like the grays and the khakis and all that kind of stuff.
Color grading they did for it was pretty good. Yes, I mean a 7. Like you said, the elements they used, they smoke in the clothes they wore, the lingo they used, like it was all pretty accurate. I thought so. I mean, I think a 7's pretty accurate for this.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 for 2 reasons: of the super acting and the accuracy of timed stuff. Yeah, like I love that it was
the period,
an old camera into an old CRT monitor and like things like that. Those were the 2 things that made this movie actually enjoyable for me.
Total scores, mine's a 42 out of 50.
Woo!
Y'all's is probably like 30, 25,
31.
Yeah,
33.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think my lowest score I've given for a movie was like 30.
Mine was a
30,
28
31.
for American Gangster.
Yeah, mine was down there somewhere for American Gangster. But
I'm pretty sure this is my lowest.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I have a lot of questions for you guys as far as just like deeper questions, but I like this movie. I don't know. I wouldn't put it in my tier 1. There's no way.
Right.
Tier 2, maybe. I might buy it. I don't own it. It's on Netflix, so I don't really need to own it. But
Luke, are you gonna buy it?
Absolutely not. No. This is
the first movie we've watched that you haven't owned.
Yeah, this is like a tier 5 movie for me. I just
I will never watch this again.
I don't think it existed. Wow. I might watch like a documentary on it.
Y'all should watch it again with my thoughts in your head.
I think the experiment was interesting.
To hear your questions.
Okay.
But
which cell block do you think you would be in? Number 1 was the one with 8612 in it, and they're like the leaders of the rebellion. Number 2 is like jumping on the bandwagon, and number 3 was like, bro, we're just doing what the guards tell us to do. Which one do you think you'd be in?
I'd be in the rebellion group. I would think it'd be too much fun.
Like if you got to choose, hypothetically.
So okay. I'm going to choose a character more than a cell block.
Okay.
But not 100%. I feel like I would have been the 1037, where he started off and said, dude, shut up, go with the flow.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I would have stuck with that more. Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Maybe I would have went a little crazy, because it's possible. Like that dude went a little crazy and was like, I got to get out of here. You know, so I feel like I would have been more him, which I guess kind of aligns with the Cell 3 guys.
What's interesting is he was in the same cell.
Yeah, he was in the same cell
crazy
as 8612, but he more aligned with like the Cell 3 guys who were just like, dude, just shut up and go.
Yeah.
And which they got rewarded for that. Like,
yeah, I could see Luke as the 8612 guy just going crazy.
I think it'd be fun. Like, I don't know. I think I'd see it. Like, sure, they're like, oh man, this is kind of real. But I think my mindset personally, I'm more of like if I know this is a game or experiment, that's my mindset the whole time. Yeah. Like, none of this is real. Like, none of it's gonna matter.
Right.
Like,
dude, I know, but that's how they're all thinking. And literally, like day 2, they're like, this is.
Well, and then that was like my thought during it. I was like, man, they changed their attitudes like real quick. Like those guards came in, and at first, like for the first 30 seconds, they seemed kind of like, all right, now take off your pants, and then like all of a sudden
they're
like
chuckle
guards.
And
they're talking and laughing and
but after that, so that may be my better answer to your question. If I would have been a part of this experiment, it may be another question later. I would have said I would have wanted to have been a guard.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have
You
wanted
would have
to
chosen to be a guard?
Yep. I would
Is that
not
one of
have
your
wanted to
questions?
have
No, it
been,
was one of my questions.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. I think that's tough.
I would
That's
not
crazy
have
that
been
they all said prisoner.
It is.
Because they all thought it would be
and
easy.
it really is. And it's, again, my personality.
Mhm.
But, again, if I would have been one of the guards, like the moment 8612 went off, I would have just jacked him.
Mhm.
I would have
So-
been a guard.
Okay, so do
Prisoner
you
doesn't
feel
sound fun.
do you feel sorry for 8612? Or did he
No.
did he deserve
Because
it?
he did it he did it to himself.
So part of me thinks that he earned it for himself because he was a jerk. He was screaming revolution or whatever he was
Yeah.
screaming through the cell, which was ridiculous. And then he was a jerk and he punched people and spit on people and whatever. But part of me did feel sorry for him because he literally was like just weak and lost it. But I kind of agree that he earned it for himself. So you don't feel sorry for him at all?
Not at all.
You don't feel sorry for him at all?
And here's why. Because at the end, he was normal again.
He was.
He
totally
was
normal.
not a wacko.
So you think he was?
If he would have been like, oh man, at the end, and he'd have been like freaking out, like in a straitjacket,
Yeah.
I probably would have felt a little sorry for him.
Mm-hmm.
But
He was fine.
You think he was just weak-minded?
he was just
Mm-hmm.
maybe not weak because he tried to be strong,
Yeah.
but
Right.
why do that?
Right.
Why even just test the waters of like, I don't, and again, that's not my personality, but like, yeah, he brought it all on himself.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Which attitude is the correct attitude? Morally correct attitude? Meaning, was the revolution against the guards the right thing to do? Was the indifference the right thing to do? Was the just going with the flow and doing everything the guards say, was that the right thing to do?
I think going in the flow would have helped. I think that would also made the psychology of the guards differently because they
Right.
started off revolutionizing.
No
that
doubt.
kind of made the guards kind of hostile
No
and
doubt.
kind of like have like a vendetta against the prisoners.
No doubt.
I think if everyone was just like cool and chill and just kind of did everything, I think the guards in this movie or in the experiment would have been a little bit softer than what they were. I'm sure they still would have been harsh in certain ways,
Sure.
yes,
No
but I
doubt.
think they would have been a little bit softer about some things.
No doubt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just a personality thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
I
It's
don't
interesting
necessarily
because,
say
like-
one is right and one is wrong.
Right.
My, again, personality would have been to just go with the flow, just stay here for 2 weeks and shut up and get paid. Like,
Right.
that's how I would have done it.
Interesting.
But
I
again,
agree.
I know I could name 15 other dudes who would have been the revolution guy.
Yeah.
So,
Was the experiment itself morally questionable?
yes.
Or
Absolutely.
well,
Sorry, finish
right,
your question.
No, right, you're right. I totally agree. But without knowing the results,
Wait, say, was it questionable
without
without
like whenever he's designing the experiment,
uh-huh.
before he knows what's going to happen, he has no idea. What's
He has
gonna
no
happen.
idea. Yeah.
Was it like, was he wrong to begin with? Obviously, he was wrong for allowing it to continue. We all agree to that. But was he wrong in the beginning? Like, was that morally wrong of him to even design the experiment that way?
I mean, did this experiment even need to happen? Like, did it like have some giant like brain busting thing that
I think it
helped people
helped.
like, oh my gosh, like the whatever power, like
I think it helped revolutionize the judicial system as far as like the prison system goes with like, because back in the day, like they could legit run in your cell, take away your
Beat the
bed,
ever-living snot out of
beat the
you.
crap out of
Yeah.
you, take away all your rights kind of thing.
yeah,
Right? That was old school.
Because I've never heard of this
See,
experiment.
and
or
I
anything
think that's
before.
why I don't agree with what you're saying. Because if that actually was, and I'm not saying it's wrong or you're incorrect, but I've also never ever heard of this,
This experiment.
which kind of makes me wonder if it had no effect at all.
Really?
Was this more than just a college professor's experiment?
So this is actually one of the most famous experiments ever. And no, I'm dead serious. It
No, I
really is.
believe you, but I
Yeah.
feel kind of dumb for not knowing
like,
about it.
in my-
So like everybody knows
Yeah.
who like Pavlov is, right? Pavlov's dogs
Yeah.
with the bells and the
Yeah.
the food. So this one is like one of the next like 2 or 3 experiments like in the world, like as far as like being famous for
Yeah.
what happened and for its results.
Huh.
I'm not saying that this guy was a saint because he revolutionized human freedom and human rights or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is this experiment drew attention, negative attention, which I agree with, negative attention to the abuse of power in every walk of life, but specifically in the prison system with guards who could beat you up and take away your food and take away your clothes and take away your bed and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I have no idea what the legal ramifications were, but I do know that there was a lot of prison reform in the 70s and 80s because of this experiment. Not necessarily because of him, but because of people reading about it and hearing about it and that kind of stuff. But so my question is, some good came out of the experiment, obviously. A lot of bad came out of the experiment. But was it wrong of him before he knew what would happen?
To even, make the experiment?
Mm-hmm. Because, you have to have some idea of, hey, I'm going to put 10 kids in a prison and 10 kids are going to be the guards and we'll just kind of see what happens.
I think he should have been better prepared.
Mm-hmm. I think he should have been better prepared. And, I don't know, man. Morally, his ideas were not wrong, in my opinion, at the beginning of it.
Yeah, his motives
were good. If this is actually what you're saying, I'm believing you, and I'm going to research it later. But his motives are good. His morals are good. I have a reason for doing this, and it's fine.
Right.
But his way of doing it, for me, 100%, if this would have been me in his situation, especially if I'm doing it to actually try and reform prisons, I would have said, give me a wing of a prison for this experiment, and I'm going to follow the same rules your guards follow and see what happens.
Right.
Then I may have been a little bit more like, okay, this is actually going to benefit. Because I don't feel, again, yes, it does show that the guards kind of go a little crazy, the prisoners go really crazy, but it doesn't feel accurate.
Right.
So
interesting.
His setup for me was the issue.
Yeah.
But morally, yes, he probably was just fine at the start.
I agree with that.
And then, obviously, probably within the first day, he should have shut it down. And obviously, he didn't. But it's so weird because literally when the guard hits 8612 in the face, and it's in the contract that they're not supposed to, physically abuse you, whatever.
Yeah.
Literally, he could have walked in and said, "Hey, this is over," or he could have walked up to that guard and said, "Hey, if you do that again, you're done. You're not making any money."
I could see that being the real thing. Hey, man, dude, just chill out. Be a guard, but follow the rules, please.
But he simply doesn't. He just chooses not to get involved because he wants to keep the legitimacy of the experiment.
Right, and see, that's...
And so he values the legitimacy of the experiment more than he values what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And we see that throughout the next couple of days until obviously day 6 he kind of loses it and feels bad for everything. But so at what point do you decide that that's far enough? That's why I said at the beginning of the podcast that him hitting the guard hitting 8612 was kind of the turning point, because once that threshold was crossed, at what point is it okay to stop the experiment? Because if you're going to stop it, that was when to stop it. Now everything else is on the table. Once you've done that, everything else is on the table. And so to me, that was when the movie turned, because literally now his hands were tied because he said, I'm just going to write it out and see what happens. And obviously it kept getting worse. But okay, last question. Well, 2 questions. Okay. What did this movie prove about the abuse of power, as far as more from the guards' perspective? Obviously, we talk about the prisoners a lot and them losing their minds or whatever. But
I think that's easiest to succumb to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you give somebody a little bit of power, they're going to run with it.
Right. Which I think we talked about this earlier, but the craziest part about this movie to me was the coin flip. Literally, the only difference between John Wayne and 8612 is the coin
flip.
The only difference between him and 1037 is a coin flip. And literally at the end of the movie, John Wayne is not affected by anything at all. He literally snaps out of it and says, does this mean we're not getting paid? right?
Yeah.
And then even at the very, very end of the interview, he's still like, totally like, I kind of probably went a little too far, but it's okay, whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally doesn't feel sorry at all. But
Correct.
like, I thought that was crazy. Like,
because he's playing a part. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I could sit here and, like, pretend to be a jerk to you, but at the end of it, I'm still, like, Luke, the guy you've known for 20 whatever years.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy how, like, this movie served kind of as a metaphor of, like, the abuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On even a larger scale, which more modern, like I don't want to get into it, but like police brutality is like a really hot issue for like us right now in our culture, in our country. And so like to me, that was what I kept relating this to was like, if a cop pulls you over and you act like 8612 and
You're gonna
get
get
pepper
beat.
sprayed in the face, like whose fault is that?
Yours.
Right? It's got to be your fault. But if you get pulled over for a dumb reason and the cop is kind of a jerk for no reason and you cooperate and he is just kind of abusing his power the way the guards were abusing their power, like at what point do you stand up for yourself? Right? So that's where to me was the hard part. 819, is that his number?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kid was a good prisoner the whole movie, right? And then somewhere in the middle is when it was like, well, that's just too far, and he just like turned and wanted to.
Well, they started like chanting like 819 did a bad thing.
819 did a bad thing. 819 did a bad thing, right? And so to me, that was crazy. Like, so if the cop pulls you over, he's being a jerk or whatever. Like, at what point do you say, "Hey, this is like not okay"?
Yeah.
Because he is an authority over you, right? But like, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to defend your rights or whatever. So like to me, that was crazy how it goes both ways. Like we fault the guards, but at the same time, we fault the people for rebelling against the guards.
Right.
When technically, like, they're both wrong and they're both right.
Yeah, and that's one part of the prison system we really didn't talk about in specific detail is the wardens, the people who are running the prison.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really comes down to that. I mean, because I would say that stuff like this, where people are still getting abused, are still going on in prisons.
Right.
So, I mean, like, yeah, you give a guard any kind of power, he's going to probably abuse it and figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with the teacher, right? Same with the coach.
True.
Same with the parent, right? A parent, a bad
Also
parent.
true.
Yeah, a bad parent abuses the power that they have over their child.
Yeah.
Right. Same with a bad coach, bad teacher. So it's more about the person who has the power than it is the actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I thought it was interesting. Like I thought that was the most interesting part of the movie was just watching people our age in that situation and asking myself, what would I do if I were a prisoner?
Yeah.
What would I do if I were a guard? Right? I thought that was really interesting.
Moral of the story: don't be a jerk.
Yeah, literally, like don't be a jerk. But what do we want to do, like as human beings, when we get a little bit of power? Right? We want to maximize it. We want to make it bigger. We want to get more power. Like, right? The whole premise of Lord of the Rings is Frodo going to destroy the Ring of Power. Right? But as the journey goes along, he falls in love with the power that it gives him, right? And he craves more power. And we literally watch him degenerate into a Gollum-like figure. Yeah. It's crazy, right? So I think that was a really interesting storyline for me. But I'm glad y'all liked the movie a little bit. I'm glad y'all didn't like the movie, too. Like, that was fun to have that conversation, too. I do totally see where this movie was not enjoyable. Callie didn't like it as much as I did. She probably didn't hate it as much. Not hate it. She probably didn't not like it as much as y'all. She was probably somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
But that was kind of interesting watching with her because she had some good thoughts and questions too. But
like, I'm glad I know about the experiment now. Like,
like keep going.
Like, I agree with you that the documentary would be interesting.
Like
I'd
rather
watch
the documentary of this than the movie. Like, I'm glad I know about it, but like I've said this many times now, it's just the movie didn't need to exist. This didn't need to be a thing. I think this enabled them. It didn't need to be it, because the whole time I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I don't know. It's like, are they overacting, or like are they overdoing this here? Is this how accurate? Like, because I kept comparing it to like the actual thing, like how like close accurate is this to this? How is this? I couldn't critique this because this is part of the experiment. This is this, and like I said, because it is based on it, that's such a specific thing that the whole movie suffers because of it.
Yeah.
If Steven Spielberg made this movie with an all-star cast and $100 million budget,
He would have shot.
Would it have been
in a
better?
real
Would
prison.
it have been better?
No.
That's my question. Like,
Filmmakers can still make a bad movie, like Steven Spielberg.
Very true.
Avatar
Right.
sucked. No, wait,
So-
no, that's James Cameron.
so you think? So your argument is that story is just not worth telling
I think
in that format.
yeah, it's not worth telling in that format at all.
It's interesting.
I think it would have made more money,
Obviously,
but I agree.
it would have been the
would've-
same result.
I would have, yeah. If he would have changed nothing except maybe the way he directed it and put different actors in it, but used the same, let's say, script and all of that stuff, I probably would have been like, this still sucks.
Mm-hmm. It could have been Brad Pitt playing 8612. I would have been, or 8216. I've still been like,
Yeah.
like this doesn't do it for me.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just to me it was a documentary in a movie form that
Yeah.
like I said, I think there is a documentary out there, and like I'm like
I think there probably is.
yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I've said my thoughts multiple times.
Cool. Cool.
Yep. All right.
Next week we're watching No Country for Old Men.
That's right.
Yep.
Great movie, great book.
Get your air blowers ready.
Yeah,
Right. Yep.
no doubt.
Crazy.
Great bad guy.
Cool. Well, is that all of our thoughts, all of our things?
Yeah,
all-
that
that's
is
all I got.
all of our thoughts.
All right.
So
Well, get prepared for next episode with No Country for Old Men. Remember to follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe, turn that bell on YouTube.
all that jazz.
Yeah, we're not official YouTubers unless you say get that bell on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And just message us. I mean, nobody has yet, which is fine. But if you
cool,
do have
cool,
any
cool.
thoughts, comments, give us a shout.
Movie recommendations.
Yeah,
send them our way.
recommendations.
Come on.
We're always open.
Yeah, we'd like to thank our sponsor, which is our wallets. So,
Yes.
Yes. So,
not
Venmo.
being passive aggressive of all. We know who we are.
right.
But yeah, thanks for listening to episode 9. We'll catch you for episode 20. We're getting so old.
We're getting up there.